Hello and welcome to our channel. Today we will be discussing the Space Race 2.0 and how African nations are uniting to conquer the cosmos. The new African Space Agency aims to defend the interests of the continent and promote the deployment of satellites applied to the climate crisis, security, and telecommunications. African nations are eager to create home-designed technology that will launch from African territory, something that has not yet been achieved. However, launching a satellite is not just about technical capability. You have to be able to move in the global geopolitical arena, especially when it comes to launching rockets. If you can launch a rocket, you can also launch nuclear warheads. This is a major concern for African nations as they enter the modern space race. The historical Prelude. Now, before we dive into the details, let's take a moment to reflect on the historic space race that unfolded during the 20th century. As we know, the space race is not a new concept. In fact, it has been going on for decades. The first space race was between the United States and the Soviet Union during the Cold War. The two superpowers invested millions of dollars with a specific milestone in mind: to be the first to have human beings walk on the moon. Now we are seeing a new space race emerge, with countries like China, India, and the United Arab Emirates launching their own space programs. And now, African nations are joining the race. The Alliance. Traditionally, space exploration has been dominated by a select few countries, but now African nations are stepping onto the cosmic stage. These visionary leaders have recognized the importance of collaboration in conquering the challenges of space exploration and have decided to pool their resources and expertise. The alliance includes countries like Nigeria, South Africa, Egypt, and Kenya, among others. Since Makupa's innocent extravagance, the African space sector has been forging ahead on the international stage. Today, it is an industry worth around $20 billion, according to estimates by the Nigerian consulting firm Space in Africa. The company's head of operations, Anna Ikoyi, adds that 22 African countries already have space programs. Following the launch of Egypt's Nilesat 101 in 1998, the continent has been steadily adding satellites and now has more than 50 in orbit. This is still a very small percentage of the nearly 5,500 satellites, around 3,500 of which belong to the U.S. orbiting the Earth. But it is enough for Africa to have decided to create a common space policy. In 2019, the African Union announced its space strategy. Last January, the African Space Agency was launched as a flagship to coordinate efforts and generate synergies. It already has a physical headquarters in Cairo, but for the moment, most of its rooms stand empty. Ouattara highlights the importance of progressing step by step toward the consolidation of an agency with highly qualified personnel. Terrorism and climate change. The strength and operability of AFSA will depend on its level of funding, and the amount of funding it receives will, in turn, depend on the political will to invest in space. Tejumola and Ikoyi both agree that agriculture is a major asset in convincing governments of the advantages of space technology, which makes it possible to anticipate the scourges of climate change, droughts, floods, etc., and to optimize risk management in the event of natural disasters. Another promising and highly marketable area is security. Satellites already accurately detect the movements of suspected terrorists, for example, in Nigeria's fight against Boko Haram. They could also, in Ouattara's view, stem the drain on lives and resources caused by piracy off the African coast or illegal mining across the continent. In his discussions at the highest levels of government, Ouattara often emphasizes attractive cost-benefit calculations. Far from being a luxury product, space technology saves money, which is not something Africa has plenty of. Tejumola, meanwhile, cites another major continental ambition, where satellite imagery could speed up processes and minimize costs. There is a plan to complete an east-west, north-south communications network. Space will be of enormous help in monitoring these infrastructures. Earlier this year, it was announced that Djibouti was to host Africa's first spaceport, a $1.1 billion investment with an educational end in mind. The official announcement spoke of providing African universities with a testing ground in order to improve knowledge in space sciences. However, skepticism arose when it was revealed who would be putting up the money: China, specifically a Hong Kong-based company. Coincidentally or not, in 2017, the Asian superpower inaugurated its first overseas military base in Djibouti. In conclusion, the Space Race 2.0 is an exciting time for African nations as they join the modern space race. However, there are external obstacles that they will face, especially in their eagerness to create home-designed technology that will launch from African territory. It is important to justify the financial cost and need for human exploration in space and to increase public awareness about space science. Space exploration is not just about launching rockets and satellites. It is also about understanding our universe and the world we live in. That's all for today's video. Thank you for watching.